Temperatures around the country are increasingly getting hotter and further north. Grand Design also unveils Lineage, its first drivable motorhome in New York City. And to wrap up our show later on, we're going to be talking about how we actually use credit cards and miles and points to pay for RV life and then use the benefits of those cards to travel for free all across the world. That coming up next on the RV Shenanigans podcast. Welcome back. My name is Ryan, and with my wife, Lauren, we make up what is known as Millers in Motion over on YouTube. This is the RV Shenanigans podcast, one of our little subcategories that we just kind of get some mics and talk for a little while and chat with everybody and deep dive some of the things we do over on the Millers in Motion channel. If it's your first time listening, please do me a favor. And if you are listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, we could really use your help and support. We could, if you could do us a favor and rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening to and share it with one friend. There's not a lot of marketing analytics that come back from the podcast world, so anything that you guys can help us out with would be greatly appreciated. All right, let's dive into some topics. The temperature. It's currently almost 100 degrees where we're sitting in North Texas at the moment, hanging out with some friends for a little bit before we all move on to our next thing, as is RV life. So I want to talk just briefly about, some reminders. Obviously, if you're in a towable versus a motorhome, this is all going to be a little bit different. For the towable sector, which is what we are in, and I think a lot of you guys are also in, just remember that they're not insulated great. I mean, they're not bad, but they're not great either. So what I want you to remember is, your ACs are going to be running all day in some of these scenarios. And so just make sure that you are up to date on any maintenance you need to do, especially your annual maintenance on the RVs, as far as making sure that your coil fins are all nice and straight. There's not too much debris in there, all of that good stuff. We actually maintain our air conditioners. We do our yearly maintenance right before summer, and so they're running at peak performance essentially. And then also, if you've got the little air filters on your ACs, make sure that those are cleaned out. You need as much airflow as you can possibly get through that thing for the compressor to really work and do its job. So if you make sure that those are clean and stay on top of that, they should be running good and solid. And then a few other little tips and tricks. We love Reflectix. It's that kind of bubbly silver material. We put that on the inside of our windows. We had a video we did a few years back on our old rig, and I still get comments on it today. Why wouldn't you put it on the outside? It makes more sense. Well, you can tell who's an RVer and who's not an RVer because, if you RV, you can't put Reflectix on the outside because, your rig moves. It'll blow off. And you're going to have to stick it to the outside of your window. So, again, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But you can put on the inside and then just draw your shades. Alliance in our new rig happens to have a black frame around all of the windows, and so everything tucks in really, really nicely right behind that. So we don't actually have to stick them up or anything along those lines. We can just kind of push it in there behind once we get it cut. And that actually dramatically reduces the rate of your the sun hitting the rig. Also, there's a bunch of different things you can do. They make like these little roof tent looking things that helps just keep the sun off. Sometimes just keeping the sun off the side of your RV can go a long way in helping you maintain. And yeah, it's getting hot. So obviously for your personal self, be aware of your internal temperature. Heat stroke is no joke. Oh, that rhymed. I didn't even mean for it to rhyme. But obviously, you can overheat out there. So, pay attention to what you can and can't handle. Everybody's got their own tolerances. We're a little used to the heat. Doesn't mean I like it, but we are a little more used to it versus maybe somebody that grew up north. They might not be as used to it. So do everything in moderation. Drink plenty of water. All the things that Lauren wants you to know from a medical perspective, do that. All right. Grand Design has officially unveiled Lineage, which is their Class B, B plus, C, however you want to classify it, Sprinter van with a fiberglass chassis behind it, a lot like a, so it's a motorhome from a towable company. Now, obviously, Grand Design has not had the easiest go for the last, I'm going to say, year now. And they were purchased by Winnebago back before. It's been a while. They've been owned by Winnebago for a little while now. So, in my first looks, a lot of the ambassadors for Grand Design were at the launch in New York City, like Less Junk, More Journey, Finding Our Someday, and a handful of others. And so you're seeing your first looks. And I'll be honest, it looks nice. I've never had a problem with the aesthetics of Grand Design. I think that on the exterior, everything looks great. Now, this is their first take into the towable or the drivables market from a towables company. Now, is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. I mean, obviously now that they're owned by Winnebago, how much of it is just a Winnebago product with a Grand Design sticker on the outside of it, that kind of a thing, and I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you in the first look, there's a lot of features that I have not seen in a motorhome, including some decaling and some things on the inside. I think it looks pretty good. But again, time will only tell. I'm not a big fan, and I've told the guys at Alliance this. I've told a lot of people this. I'm not a big fan of being anybody's guinea pig. So would I purchase it right out of the gates? Lauren and I, probably not. And I only say that because I don't necessarily, do they know what's going to break? Now, again, they're bringing a lot of, I'm sure that there's some input from Winnebago because they've spent so much time, developing those types of things. And whether you like Winnebago or not, that's, they still have experience in that marketplace, and then they're putting a Grand Design twist on it, excuse me. So, is it one of those situations where, between all the R&D people and all of the research and everything that they may have hit a sweet spot? Potentially. I mean, it's always interesting when you get a towable company getting in the drivables or a drivable company getting into towables. If you remember most recently, the most recent crossover outside of this would have been Tiffin. So Tiffin obviously makes high-end and a lot of end now motorhomes, Class Cs, Class As, diesel pushers, gassers, all that kind of stuff. They make some smaller ones as well. But when they ventured in, if you remember the Van Lee fifth wheel line, which was Beacon and I forget the other, there's they made a fifth wheel and a toy hauler version of a fifth wheel. It didn't go so great. Now I say that they looked great. They did well. We knew people that purchased them. But again, I'm not a big fan of being anybody's guinea pig in the first handful of years. I want something that's a little more tried and true as far as some of the engineering stuff. And I say that the aesthetics and those types of things are not what I'm talking about. I mean, yes, some of those companies are leading edge when it comes to features internally and some of the aesthetics, but they don't, a drivables company may not have the experience in towables that is potentially required. And so what ends up happening is, like they were just engineered a little off, unfortunately, when it came to like the Van Lees and the Beacons and all of those, because, like there were a lot of issues where slides were having a lot of problems. There were some camber issues with some frames. Again, I think that they got in maybe a little bit over their heads and pushed it through a little too fast. Now, I will tell you that at the time of the release, Tiffin was just Tiffin. Since that, Tiffin was purchased by Thor, which is another large of the big companies, with Jayco, Thor, and Winnebago. And so, did they have some input? And did they shut it down? But I know that they shut down the entire Van Lee plant. Anybody that currently owns a Van Lee fifth wheel towable product from Tiffin, they take it back to Red Bay, Alabama, which is where the other factory was. But they're essentially just taking it back to the Tiffin factory, if that's the scenario now. So, will Lineage be a game changer? I don't think so. And it's hard to say anything's going to be a game changer anymore in RVs. I can tell you that it's probably not the best time in the world for Grand Design to come out with something like this, simply because of their last year has been a little rough with the whole frame flex and whatever side of the aisle you sit on that, and whatever's going on, whether it's your personal rig or somebody it's a thing. And it's, I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to it out there, and this is not going to be the podcast we go into all that, and to be honest, we probably never will because it's such a loaded topic. But I can tell you that, yes, there are always going to be small issues with RVs, and most of the things that happen to an RV are self-inflicted. Like a lot of people, believe it or not, don't weigh their RVs. And so, is it overloaded? Is it not? Is it an actual issue with steel? Is it an actual issue with engineering? There's so many variables. There's just so many of them. So is Lineage going to be that official first crossover? The drivables market's not great right now. You're seeing used prices come down pretty drastically, and there's a lot of people that bought in at the height, and so they're holding to their guns. Like I constantly look at RV Trader. If you're looking at pre-owned motorhomes and new, There are new on there. They're just priced with MSRPs typically versus like someone actually like a private seller selling it. But it gives you a lot of insight, and you're seeing the used market almost be as expensive as the new market. Like if you're looking for a traditional 30 to 40 foot diesel pusher, let's say Class A, the prices are actually really close together. So why would you ever buy a used one over a new one? If they're within $5,000, $10,000, you're not. And so, but a lot of people bought into that market, in the height of COVID when everything was ridiculously overpriced. And now, unfortunately, they're seeing the repercussions of that because the market isn't as hot as it was. And so as that cools down, people are trying to sell their coaches, which is a normal thing, but they're trying to get too much for it. So it's the drivable market seems a little volatile at the moment. The towables market has seemed to kind of calm down a little bit. I mean, obviously, everything on the RV side is going to be in decline for maybe another year or so, simply because of the amount of coaches that were built in 2020, 2021, and 2022 with the COVID surge. And so it's a lot. There is an absolute lot going into it. So I'm curious to see what Lineage does. I actually do like the curb appeal of the whole thing. The visuals look great. I'm curious to see the new floor plans. And it does seem like they've made a lot of good decisions in some of the designs. I'm curious to see how the engineering all works out. It is on a Mercedes Sprinter chassis. So, I mean, as far as the chassis goes, it's a pretty tried and true chassis with a diesel engine, all those things. So now the rest of it, the box, all those things, very curious to see how that turns out. So we will be continually keeping our eye on that. Also, why they launched in New York City, I have no idea. It's kind of a cool mesh of camping in the big city and all that stuff, but I don't know that I'd want to drive a motorhome through New York City personally, but I'm sure they had their reasons. Okay, let's take a quick break, and we will come right back to you with how we get free stuff while paying for RV life. So how do we pay for all of the other trips that we take throughout the year while paying for RV life? If a lot of people will get an RV life because they think it's going to be cheaper from like a sticks and bricks life. And, if you haven't heard some of this, then I'm in for a shock for you. It's not that much less expensive. Campgrounds has gone up. Fuel is not cheap. And so RV life can get very expensive in the process of kind of putting everything together. And we love travel in general. If you've noticed, behind the scenes of Millers in Motion and RV Shenanigans podcast, you've noticed that obviously we've pulled the podcast from the main channel and put it off over to its own thing, simply because the YouTube channel, there's a whole analytical reason why we did that, to be completely frank with you, and we are appreciative of people that have come over. So if you have not come over from the main channel, welcome, because you found it now, because we haven't posted a podcast now over there in a few weeks, and there's zero intention of pushing it back. So essentially we're creating a whole new channel from the ground up with the RV Shenanigans podcast, but 90% of you guys listen on podcast platforms. So this is going to be an audio-based platform. It always has been, always will be. And we will talk about RV life, but we will also throw in some nuggets like this where RV life can help do other things. So I love RV life. There's, I couldn't imagine, and we just got back from another trip and had to board the dogs, and I missed having them. I missed having all of my stuff, my clothes, not having to pack. I mean, you pack up and pull out, but not the same. Trying to get on an airplane, all those things. And I love travel. I'm one of those crazy people that will get to the airport early so that I can go hang out in a lounge and watch some of the planes take off. I'm truly passionate about travel in general, and not just the destination, the actual process of getting there. It's something that always has excited me, and I enjoy it. Now, I will say that we go out of our way to make things easier, like we use TSA pre-check in airports, all that stuff, because I know I said that and everybody's eyes rolled back a little bit, like, who likes to fly anymore? And everybody dry heaves and gets the shakes and all of the things that get associated now with flying. But I truly enjoy it. Even a bad day flying is better than a good day doing a lot of other things. And so I'm one of those guys that really likes it. How do we pay? Some of these things in cruises, everything, just like everything else in the world, travel has gone up. And so how do we actually pay for all this stuff? Well, this is something that is near and dear to our hearts. I'm a fan of a good deal. So is Lauren. And we do something what's called miles and points redemption. So what exactly is miles and points? Well, let's break this down that essentially we sign up for credit cards. There's bonuses associated with that in the miles and points world. We spend money on our credit cards with normal everyday purchases like fuel, lodging, and I say lodging, like campsites, that kind of stuff, grocery store trips, you name it. We go out to eat. We use these cards just in a way that's strategic, that we accumulate the most points or miles, and then those miles points are essentially redeemed for free or very inexpensive travel. Nothing's 100% free. You have to still pay taxes on things. It's kind of like getting a gift. You still have to pay a little taxes on it, but we're talking, round trip first class tickets on American Airlines for $12. That's what I'm kind of talking about. And so just because that's what the taxes and fees happen to be. So now how do we pay for all this stuff? Well, we sign up for these credit cards, and there's bonus points and then the redemption and all that thing. And we use them and we pay for things. The fun part is some of them have what's called multipliers, which is based in travel. So if we're paying for tolls, fuel, some campgrounds actually qualify. You're getting like 3 times, 5 times points and all those types of things. Well, you earn enough points or miles, just like if you earn miles on American Airlines, Delta, United, any of the big ones, and you can redeem them for free stuff. It's a loyalty program is essentially what all this is. But the credit card companies have incentivized it in a way that is much more lucrative. And you can, if you learn how to play the game right, and I will tell you that it is a very complicated thing, and we're going to get into that in just a second, but if you learn how to play that game right, you can truly start to maximize those points in the redemption process through transferring points versus just booking directly through like one of the credit card companies' travel portals, that kind of stuff. So what we've done is, for the last couple of years now, behind the scenes, we've been kind of trying to figure out the best way for redemption. So as an example, we went on a cruise just a few weeks ago now for Lauren's little sister's graduation celebration. Had an absolute blast. And over on the Millers in Motions channel, another reason why we pulled RV Shenanigans to its own thing, is we are going to be bringing you a cruise series. We're going to bring you more general travel. Some of the best performing videos we have on Millers in Motion are travel-based videos. Now, it's RV life and lifestyle stuff, but like our Pigeon Forge series did amazingly well. A lot of those types of videos have done great for us. So we're going to lean into that, and we're going to bring you all forms of travel. And it also, with how we live, with Lauren having to come back to an in-person job a lot, we are a little bit restrained sometimes in when and how we can get the RV out, because we live full-time in it, but we don't necessarily have the ability to take it on like a 6-month road trip, which is why we're trying to figure out Alaska right now, and if we can do it in 2025 and how we're going to actually make that happen. So, with that being said, we are attempting to maximize. And so you're going to see some quick road trips. You're going to see some 24 hours in some cities in the U.S., and you're going to see some cruises and a lot of international destinations, all kind of sprinkled in the middle of RV trips and all those things. So don't freak out if you're a fan of the RV stuff, because I know this channel's all about RVs. We are going to be using the RV. We are not selling it. We are not moving into a sticks and bricks, at least at the moment. It's always a possibility. There's always a small chance, but we are utilizing this rig to travel still. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming up for 2024 and 2025. And so we're just going to start sprinkling in some of this other stuff in between all of it. Now, when you start talking about miles and points redemption, there's a lot of YouTubers out there that specialize in this kind of stuff. In fact, one of the popular YouTube channels, Kara and Nate, this is kind of how they started. They're not necessarily a budget travel channel. They kind of started out that way, but it was more of a miles and points redemption channel, and then take you along for the journey kind of a thing. Well, they started a couple of different companies, one called Fare Drop, which is essentially just a quick, they look for mistake fares on airlines, that kind of thing. So it's airline deals is the best way to look at that. And we're not going to focus on that guy today, but in another company called The Daily Drop. The Daily Drop is a super unique company that we have officially partnered with. So if you go to any of our descriptions or the website, you're going to see some things that say miles and points now. When you go to those and you click on them, you're going to go to a website that was built in conjunction with Daily Drop that goes through essentially all of our options. So they spend every day looking for the best way to redeem they look for the best ways to redeem points and miles and all of these different things. And so, trying to figure out a lot of this is half the battle, and they take a lot of that guesswork out. So we worked with them in conjunction with some of the credit card systems that are already out there. And in addition to that, we kind of gave our 2 cents on how we're also doing a lot of the other things that we do. So, it's interesting because like you can sign up for a credit card and spend $4,000 in the first 4 months, for instance, and get an extra anywhere from 50 to 100,000 miles or points, depending on, how that system actually does it. And then you're going to have other credit cards that'll give you like free companion fares on airlines, like some of the airline based cards. And if I'm being a little bit distant as far as the types of cards, and I'll say there's a lot of compliance things. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on specifics. Just know that if you go to the podcast description for this or our website, there will be a link to all this information. You can sign up for their newsletter that goes into this. They do a lot of giveaways for free trips. But the big thing they do is they do a lot of great information on how to do this. Now, when I say that we've partnered with them, the credit card companies, just like anything else in this world, uses social media as affiliates. Now, we're not endorsing any particular card. We're just a fan of doing these types of things. So if you are looking to sign up for a new credit card and use some of the miles and points the way Lauren and I do, you can do that through our link. And full disclosure, we will get a kickback from the credit card company, and we do appreciate it because those are some of the things that help us pay for all the equipment, time, effort that goes into not only Millers in Motion, but the RV Shenanigans podcast as well. Whether that happens to be through Electric Bikes, Alliance RV, any of the big companies that we work with, Brooklyn Bedding, or now Daily Drop. And so the kicker with this is that there's no actual upcharge. And anything we do, that there's not. We're not going to do something that adds an extra fee for people that happen to hear it through us. So from the standpoint of this, you're not paying anything extra. We're getting a little bit of a bonus for helping get the word out on this. And to be honest, the miles and points thing, we've saved an absolute ton of cash by playing this game. And there's ways you can do it and maximize, but we have so many trips coming up that we're not paying for. And it feels a little bit like you're cheating the system, but at the same time too, if they're going to offer it, I'm going to use it. And so I will say my one disclosure on the credit card thing is that, use financial responsibility. Like, we don't carry balances. We pay everything off every month. One of the reasons we got into RV life was so that we were completely debt free. And that's a big, nowadays with the amount of debt that's kind of lingering over people, it can be debilitating. And so use financial responsibility. Don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable. But just know that there are programs out there that allows you access to these systems, and then you can get more out of it. At the moment, I believe we have 3 or 4 separate trips planned and booked that we paid just taxes on. So very minimal fees. I think this year in non-RV travel, we may spend about $2,000. And when you see the amount of other travel that's going on out there, you will understand like that's nothing. That's really nothing. One of those trips is much later in the year. We try to go every year. I'm a big Green Bay Packer fan, and so I try every few years to go up to Green Bay and watch a game. Well, we're taking Lauren's little sister this time, so there's 3 of us, and I can't pay for the tickets with miles and points. You actually could have, but I chose not to because that was a better deal for me to just pay for them. And so I bought tickets through Ticketmaster, just normal. And so about $1,000, that was just tickets to that game. So, but the flights getting up there, the hotel accommodations, that's all going to be picked up by our miles and points. So there's a lot of information that comes into miles and points, and I think what's important to know about it is that you can save a ton of money and do a lot of things when you do that. Now, I will tell you that there's other perks that come in very, very handy, and they make the travel experience so much better. A lot of the credit cards are starting to have their own lounges, and then they give you access to other lounge systems. So I'm going to use our favorite current credit card, gives you access into what's something called a priority pass. Well, the priority pass is something that allows you to go into a lot of lounges all across the world. It's way more predominant outside the U.S., but the major airports in the U.S. are going to have it. Like for us, we fly almost exclusively out of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. It's where our families are. If we are going to leave the dogs somewhere and go, we typically like to try to get back here because we have places we trust here. So when you come here, like that's why we go early, is we can go to a lounge. We can get some free breakfast, a couple of free drinks, depending on the time of day, and enjoy the experience a little bit more. So I will tell you that if you want to see more of these experiences visually, that you can go to Millers in Motion on YouTube and anywhere else, and you will see a lot more of that stuff coming up very soon. Like I said, the cruise we just took on Royal Caribbean, we actually paid for using miles and points, specifically points. Miles typically only retains to the airline flights because you get a point for every mile the airplane flies, and that's just how they work. So I have questions for you guys out there. What do you like to travel outside of RV life? You know, I know that there's not a ton of places to leave comments on the podcast, so I actually want people to reach out to us on this one. Is where do you want to go? Where do you want to see? What information can we bring to you over on Millers in Motion that is something that you really want to see from this perspective? Because like I said, we're going to be sprinkling it in. Also, do me a favor, again, down below on YouTube or in the podcast description, you will find links to the Daily Drop. Go check them out. Sign up for the newsletter. You know, they automatically qualify you to win different trips. Like they just got done doing a free trip to Bali. They always kind of have a bunch of stuff, but there is so much information on there, like the best ways to use global entry, traveling internationally. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And so it's interesting. If you're kind of, I get almost a thrill out of saving money and doing stuff for free. And so if you like that, you're going to love this. But it is a game. It does take a lot. And Daily Drop really does kind of take the questioning out of it for you. And you can just kind of read some of those things. If you have questions about what we do, we would be more than happy to talk to you kind of one-on-one, because everybody's scenario is a little bit differently. I'm okay having a bunch of credit cards in my wallet because I know I'm paying them off. And a lot of them have not a lot of our credit cards, especially the ones with the really high-end travel perks, are going to have a little bit of a fee associated with them, like an annual fee kind of a thing. But, you know, when we travel, we don't have international, transaction fees. A lot of companies will charge anywhere from 2 to 5% just to use your card internationally outside the States, because they have to do a little bit of work on the back end on the conversions and transfer rates and all that stuff. But for us, it's also all those perks. Like you get way more than, as long as you're okay. Like if you're going to spend that money one way or another, get more out of it. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. If you're going to spend the money to travel, get more out of it. And so that's where we come in with these miles and points redemptions, because if I spend $300 on an annual fee, but they give me to $200 travel credit plus another $200 towards like global entry, clear, or TSA pre, that's something that I've had forever and I'm going to continue to have. Well, I'm spending that money one way or another. I might as well get some extra perks out of it and do it through one of the credit cards. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes down to this. It's just kind of maximizing and getting the ability to travel more and to different places. And again, RV life can absolutely help pay for this. If you've lived this lifestyle for a little while now, you know how quickly the charges can rack up, especially if you have a repair or something else. All I'm saying is if you're going to pay for RV life, you might as well get a free trip to Hawaii out of it in the process, which is actually what started us down this road this whole time, is we just really wanted to go to Hawaii for free. And that was the beginning of the end all. Through our link, you can actually find not just information, but you can also see that we have another link that's kind of our top credit cards. And these are all credit cards that we actually do use. And you can kind of look and see what the current deals are. And then that website will update as you go. There are good times and bad times to do this, I will tell you. There's a handful of credit cards out there right now that have some amazing deals. Not all of them are great. We typically stay away from the airline cards and the hotel cards because we've noticed that the redemption is better in the more generic region. But with that being said, because we've been doing this for so long, we kind of have them all now. So, yeah. But again, you have your preferences. Check it out and let us know how you think it's going. Describing this podcast as a little all over the place would be kind, I think, at this point. Full disclosure, we just got back the other day from the cruise that we were talking about a little bit when we were talking about miles and points. And we had a whole other podcast planned to record, and unfortunately Lauren came down a little bit ill. And so we kind of had to throw this together last second. And in a fun crime of opportunity, we had friends that actually made it into town, and so we wanted to hang out with them as well. So we appreciate you kind of sitting on this random podcast with us. I know it's a little on the shorter side for us, which, shocker, 30 minutes is short-sighted. But we do appreciate it. Again, if you could do us a huge favor and help us spread the word about the RV Shenanigans podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. Also, make sure and go check out Millers in Motion over on YouTube, our main channel. We have a lot of fun travel videos that are going to be coming your way very, very quickly. If you have questions on cruising and why RVers just like cruising so dang much, shocker, it's because it's very similar to RV life, except someone's cooking and cleaning for you this time. Go check out that, because for the next few weeks, we are going to be bringing you a cruise series aboard Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to chatting with you guys next week. Have a great week.